Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to Victorious Friday. I'm excited today, as I always say, but today is a special day. I have a friend on the line with me today that's going to bring such wisdom. I tell you right now, grab a pen, a paper, or your iPhone, iPad, whatever you have to take notes, because you don't want to mix this next interview that I have. It's a conversation that I have with a dear friend, Bill Dolan. I refer to him as Bill Dolan. Bill,
Yep.
Welcome to Victorious Friday.
Thank you, Terrence. It's great to be here with you.
Oh man, it's always good to be with you, and just what a beautiful day it is. You know, when I think about your story, your life, I think about just Spirit Media and all the things the Lord has done in and through you. I'm just humbled today to spend some time with you on the call today. Hey, how's it going? Tell me about family life. How is Spirit Media doing?
Hey, we're blessed, and I say blessed not because, as you recall in my book, I have Plan A and Plan B, and my Plan A got thrown out the window a long time ago. But I am walking in the blessing of Plan B, which stands for Plan Blessed, and for that reason, a lot of great opportunities. We're doing a lot of virtual events, a lot of shows, a lot of conferences, a lot of videos, and I'm doing consulting around my book. And the family is growing. I now have 3 grandchildren. And so it's a neat time because I'm in a season of greater reflection and a sense of like wonderment, absolute wonderment, as I watch my children kind of hopefully enjoying the fruits of both the good lessons and some of the mistakes I made as a parent. And it's fun to watch them.
Well, my friend, we're going to jump into that discussion. We're going to have a real candid discussion today, folks. And we're going to talk about Bill and look at his life. And he's going to tell you there's some positive things that he would take away from parenting and his upbringing. And there's some opportunity things, to say it nicely, that challenged him in his early days. Bill, get us started by just sharing, man, share us your early life, early days of your life growing up. What was it like in home? Did you grow up in a Christian home? Not? And just kind of give us the early days.
Well, sure. Just for context, there was a religion factor that was a part of my home, but it would be hard for me to say, oh, it was a Christian home, not by any means or not in any traditional sense, but there was a certain amount of religious reverence that existed in the home. But at the same time, I was an only child. And my father was a hardworking, blue-collar meat cutter. My mother was a nurse. And so I had 2 people that really gave me this wide variety view of life. One who didn't even barely graduate from 8th grade, and went right into blue-collar work and didn't really value education. But I'll tell you, he valued hard work. And he really mentored that into me about hard work. And something I carry today and I try to pass on to my kids. My mother, on the other hand, was a brilliant, worked in the medical field. She was a nurse, administrator, and she got me excited about the idea of living a life in service to others and the value of education. So I had this hard work on one side, and I had this education and use your life as a gift to others as mentors for me. So by the time I got to high school, I would say that I was in a place of, what do I really want to do with my life? And like a lot of kids, I was now at a point of rebellion. My father had gotten ill and became very abusive during that season. And there was a part of me that just was really angry. But I had a friend who went to a church service and met Jesus. And he called me one week and said, hey, we got to go to church. And I'm like, what? He goes, no, we got to go to church. We got to go to youth service. And he's trying to explain to me about how Jesus, he created the heavens, the earth. And I said, well, yeah, I've kind of heard that. And he goes, and Jesus loves us. I said, yeah, I've heard that. And Jesus has a plan for our life. And I said, well, yeah, I've heard that. He says, for that reason, we should put our life in Jesus' hands. And then, wait, stop there. You crossed the line on that one. Because look, I've kind of tried the religion thing before, and it doesn't work. It's a waste of time. He says, oh, Bill, we've got to. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll go to this youth service, which I'd never been to a youth service. And, but be honest with me. I said, let's give this thing 30 days. 30 days. And if it doesn't work, we can blow it off. He goes, that sounds fair. So we go to church, and the guy starts talking at the end of it. He says, okay, who wants to accept Jesus as their Lord? And we kind of, well, I guess that's us. Of course, as we raised our hand, and like a lot of youth groups. Now, keep in mind, I had not gone to a youth group. So even when I walked in, these young kids were in a state of terror, as if to look at us like, wait a minute, our parents sent us to this place to keep us away from people like you. And now we're in the back raising our hand, and their eyes all lit up like, we got one. We've never seen this before. But that night changed my life and began a trajectory. And I would say my trajectory looked like this: learning, growing, stretching, screwing up, meeting my high school sweetheart, getting married young, and then beginning and launching what turned out to be an incredible career in the television industry.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. When I think about it today, as we speak to one of the most powerful communication and marketing experts in the field, Bill Dolan, I just often reflect on your story, the impact, and how the Lord has been moving in and through you, Bill. Bill, when you tell me how you met your beautiful wife, and as we jump, because I want people to get to know you, right? They're going to always get to know the business side of you and what you're doing. We're going to jump into that in a minute. But tell me about the wife. Tell me how you guys met. Tell me, set that up for us.
Well, the meeting my wife, again, was a miraculous event. I was at the time a junior in high school, and my girlfriend at the time was the starting forward on the girls basketball team. And I was just hanging out in the gym waiting for her to come out of the locker. And while I'm just hanging out there, all of a sudden a ball comes and trickles across the floor and hits me in the ankles. That happens in gyms. So I went to pick up the ball, and I'm like, and I looked forward, and there was the most beautiful woman in the world. Now, keep in mind, woman, she was a young woman. She was 14 years old, beautiful, long, flowing brown hair, deep, beautiful brown eyes, dimples that you could dive in and swim for days. And I just went, wow, and realized it was her ball. I threw her the ball, and she smiled, and all she said was, thank you. I still to this day remember the chills that just made me shiver when I looked into her eyes and went, wow, there's something special about this person. Well, we ended up about a year later dating, took her to a really fancy date for pizza after a game. But then I really wanted to get her excited. I took her to a Blazer game. Now, this gives you a little clue about when this date was, because I took her in 1976 to see Bill Walton play Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And that was the year the Portland Trailblazers won the championship.
Yeah.
When we went to that game, kind of cemented those experiences for us. And even though, again, talk about a relationship, somehow I seem to have those wobbly wheels like they have on bad shopping carts in the mall. I asked her to marry me. And she was 20 and I was 22. We bought our first house, and we haven't looked back since. I'm madly in love with her. She's truly the love of my life. And my gosh, we just celebrated our 40th, actually.
Oh man,
40th.
Congratulations. It's almost like a movie line, right? You had me at thank you. The ball trick. Like, you think she hit you on purpose, Bill, or you think the ball just don't go there.
No. And you want to know how I know that? Because dating her and following was the biggest sales job of my life. I'll tell you, if anybody says, oh, if I'm not in sales, I don't like sales or whatever. Look, if you're in a relationship, you've been in sales. Bottom line. Wow. And I had to work for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Well, Bill, I want to turn the table just a little bit, because you've written a fantastic book, many of them, but the one in particular I want to focus in on are the 7 disciplines of relationship marketing. and just an amazing book as I've read through. Thank you for my copy and autograph and beautiful message in there. I'm so humbled to receive it. But, when I think about these 7 disciplines, not only do they apply in the marketplace, but they apply in life, don't they? And I just think about just how I can look at that and apply them to my own life, apply them to my marketplace ministry, apply them to my family ministry, and just some wonderful nuggets in there. So I want to dive a little bit into that, and talk about, what was the inspiration for writing the 7 disciplines of relationship marketing?
Well, the simple answer is I died. That really was the inspiration. And and I love these authors that come on and they have these brilliant, wise insights. And they said, I grew and look, I tend to be a 2x4 learner. In other words, when a 2x4 hits me along the side of the head, I wake up and go, oh, I should pay attention to that. And in my case, even though I married my high school sweetheart, I ended up having 5 beautiful children. In the television industry, you're like, bah, 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 go, 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 go. And I was that way. And it got to a point where I actually had an opportunity to do a documentary project. And I was feeling a tug on my heart that maybe I was turning into a bit of an absentee husband and absentee father. I mean, am I there for all the special occasions? Yeah. Do I show up, games, graduations, birthdays? Yeah. But am I really there? And I was having that tug on my heart, and I thought maybe this documentary project would be the first it would take me in a place where I would be able to spend maybe a little bit more time with the family, not always be on the road doing shows and working with celebrities and everything like that. So I did the project, and by the grace of God, we got a distributor out of Nashville, said, hey, we want to sign you, come to Nashville, we'll give you a big check and everything like that. And I hopped on a plane January 28th, 1999, ready to go get that big fat check. And about 20 minutes in the flight, something happened to me that changed me forever. And bottom line, I just started to feel sick. And I'm never sick, ever sick. But I was with my very best friend, Timothy Greenidge, who's one of the greatest gospel singers in the entire world. And he's built like an NFL lineman too. And Terrence, you know me, I am like a leprechaun-ish in figure, Irishman. So Timothy and I travel together all the time. And but when I wasn't feeling right, I mean, it was really like things were closing in on me. And I turned to Timothy, I said, something's not right. And that's the last thing I said before my eyes rolled back in my head. My arms fell by my side and my heart stopped cold. And Timothy, knowing something was wrong, I mean, he didn't know technically how to do CPR. He began doing chest compressions on me, trying to revive me. And when that didn't work, he literally picked me up, put me in the aisle, and started doing chest compressions and doing that stuff. He doesn't know exactly how much time elapsed, 2-3 minutes, something like that. But he was the point, he said he was ready to break my ribs, and he pulled back his fist like, I'm going to do this. And as he pulled back his fist, I took a breath. Now, needless to say, that made quite the scene on the plane, and we made an emergency landing, and I ended up being diagnosed with a syndrome called malignant neurocardiogenic syncope, where my heart and my brain could get confused. My brain tells my heart to stop. So I have actually a pacemaker. I've got my 3rd one in now in my chest that monitors my heart. And about 6 times a day, I have an intervention that stops my heart, keeps my heart from stopping and dying.
Yeah.
And so living on the threshold of death is one of the most incredible, wonderful things I could wish on everybody.
Yeah.
And for me, I had a profound after-death experience, and where I came face to face with God. And I talk a lot more about it in the book, but I will just say this, that I wish everybody could die and come back, because it would change the way you live. And the wake-up call for me, among many things, was how I lived and how I worked. And I spent a lot of time in the Word. reflecting what was my life, what was my career. And it was in that time that I was particularly focusing on the Gospels, the 4 Gospels. And I just want to know, what did Jesus do and what did Jesus say? I just was hungry for that. What did he do and what did he say? And I started following it along. And as I did, not only do you see this incredible, miraculous life, what I saw was the greatest marketing plan, the greatest strategy plan in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
And that was really the impetus for me to write the book and recognize that there were not only 7 core disciplines for a great marketing and a great business plan, but they were the 7 core disciplines for creating a movement, really creating a movement. Now, I'll jump forward a little bit because, we're talking about family. I was so focused on business still, it took me a while to evolve. But it was, as my kids started getting older, now my kids are adults, that I realized that the 7 disciplines really do apply to every one of our lives, and made me think about my role as a father. And in many cases, tragically, some of my failures as a father, but how I could apply and learn those lessons to try to recover, reinvent, and almost resurrect what being a good father could be, and now what being a good grandfather could be.
Yeah, that's awesome, Bill. Well, talk to me about those 7 disciplines, Bill, that you discuss in your book. And I think about it when you talk about one of the greatest marketing plans, it just takes me to one that you mentioned in your book. I mean, Nike, right? I mean, one of the greatest basketball brands and, or just really sports brands in the world. And you look at that and you say, man, what a great brand. And of course, I think about Michael Jordan, my home team, Chicago Bulls, one of the greatest marketing programs that ever happened. I mean, Air Jordans, even decades later. I mean, I don't know if anyone can top that. I mean, Spike Lee, Michael Jordan, all of that. It was just amazing. You want to be like Mike, and we all did. But none of us, but a lot of us just can't be like Mike. And even when it comes to these disciplines, parenting, what have you, I always say God doesn't want us to be like Mike in terms of our planning. What God wants is his best, not our best. But yet he's laid out an amazing, what we could say, movement that has changed mankind forever. I think about your story, Bill. Talk to us about those 7 disciplines that you mentioned.
Well, the 7 disciplines start like not only every good business, but I'm now learning every good family. And in the first discipline, I call it the discipline of mission, but it really consists of 5 key elements. And it's something I'm going back and doing not only with my business, but with my family. And that's this: purpose. Let's start with that. Why are you here? Now, if it's a family, why am I here as a father? Why am I here as a husband? If it's a business, why am I here as a leader? If it's developing a marketing plan, why am I developing this plan? Why am I launching this program? The why question, which gets blown away out of the water a lot because we think it's so obvious. But I really encourage that first step to get clarity about that purpose. And if you've sidestepped that, you've missed the boat. And you may be doing things based upon just on what the market's doing or what you see other people. Not to say that mentorship is not bad, not good. What do I say? Mentorship is bad, because I will tell you, there's a lot of programs out there that aren't right for you, and it's important to get that purpose piece down, get it down, because that becomes the gateway to what are your missions. And now I say missions, and the reason I say that, and there's a great book by a gentleman by the name of Steve Scott, where he talked about the missions of Jesus Christ. And he started breaking it down. And when you really look at purpose versus mission, purpose is why I'm here. It will be the essence of my life. Missions are what I must accomplish to fulfill that purpose. So this is a little twisted from the regular business model where we throw up our mission on the wall and say, we were going to do this. Jesus had 26 missions. And so when you think about that, what are the missions that you must accomplish to be a successful leader, a successful father, whatever role that is, write down those missions. Now, a lot of people talk about goals, and goals are really important. Goals and SMART goals all sound good, but ultimately a goal becomes powerful when it's connected to your mission. So goal is really an activated timeline with accountability and responsibility attached to a mission, which is designed to fulfill your purpose. So there's a interconnected, when you see in the life of Christ, how this is executed with such brilliance every step of the way. Now, there is a fourth component, and that's values. And that is really, how are you going to conduct this? How are you going to behave? Now, in my book, I reference values because remember, it started out as marketing before I went, oh, parents could use this too. On my website, I have a website, 7drm.com. I have a place where you can download, and we have a thing called the brand value worksheet, which, and we do this with all our clients. So when people say, this is important to us, we say, let's go through the brand values worksheet. And we start checking off a list of adverbs and adjectives that say, who are you and what do you aspire to be? Who are you and what do you aspire to be? And we start going through those. And then we break that down to the top 20, and then the top 10, and then the top 3. And you know what's really fascinating? It's go into an organization or even go into your family and do this with your spouse, and have your spouse do it, and then have you do it. Then compare them. We have found in more organizations the disconnect in the highest values. Yeah. And we've also seen see them migrate depending upon seasons from, for example, from responsibility, that's a value, to safety, is that a value, to character, is that a value, to honesty or integrity. It's interesting when you really ask people to do it. And if you haven't done it, do it. Don't assume your values, because what's obvious to you is not obvious to others. But the last thing is vision. And it's not to say you do it last, but vision, as I refer to it in my book, is like, I call it the puzzle box analogy. I mean, when you're a kid, maybe during COVID, you might have put together some puzzles. And the first thing before you put together those puzzles is you look at the cover of the box, because you need to know what you're building. And if you can't see it, and vision attaches to the visual cortex, it goes into the limbic system and starts attaching through the reticular activating system, what pieces I need to fulfill this. It gets you tuned in and focused on what my puzzle pieces look like. Yeah. So when you get vision for your business, for your marketing plan, for your family, for your children, that allows you to now start putting in places, what are the puzzle pieces that are the cornerstones, the framework, and even more important, what are the puzzle pieces that don't belong in your puzzle? Coming from the marketing world, I know, and most studies will support this, that through social media and all the other media behaviors and billboards and all the things that exist in our world, from grocery stores to what you get in the mail, we get an average of 5,000 plus brand impressions a day. And again, coming from marketing, I can tell you quite honestly that most of those marketing messages are telling you you're inadequate. They basically are saying that if you don't buy my product, drive my car, wear my clothes, smell like my smell, live in my house, you're not as good as you could be. Yeah. So that press for inadequacy is one of the great risks that, as a business person, a leader, but also as a parent, to not rush to a grab bag of ideas and plans, but instead to say, what puzzle pieces are critical for the vision that God has given me? Mm-hmm. And when you can operate in that confidence, it's a game changer. It's truly a game changer.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, and that's the first discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline of mission.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I listened to this, something hit me as you were sharing, and that is every day we're getting feedback saying that we're inadequate.
Mhm.
And I think about the pressures that our children are under today, saying to them that you're inadequate, your God is inadequate, everything about your life as a Christian is inadequate.
Yeah.
And I think about those pressures, those winds that's blowing in our children's lives every day that says Christianity is inadequate. It's, who is this God that you believe in? So, man, I just, that hit me right there. Any thoughts in that area that the world is telling the next generation how inadequate Christ is to redeem their life?
Well,
His
yeah.
his marketing plan doesn't work. That's what they're saying, Bill.
Well, let me be really candid here. The message of Christ and what he came to teach us about your kingdom come, your will be done, really is a pretty simple message. It's a powerful message. And we have to ask that question of what does God's kingdom look like? And you start looking at these other little tidbits when he says, look, people will know that you belong to me by your love. And I will tell you, when I died and came face to face with God, I can tell you, I was not only overwhelmed, but surprised. Because the way I grew up, I was convinced that the day I would ever meet God, if I met God, and you give lip service to it, like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I did not want to meet God, because I deep down had this belief that the day I did, he would say, you screwed up. You disappoint me. You failed. You are inadequate. You are not capable of living to the destiny that I planned for you. You have failed. And I mean, I could go down a list of lie after lie after lie, that whether they come from others, it comes from the world, or it comes from our own voice, the echo chamber that tells us, combine that with all the crap that's going on in the media, it's pretty much telling you you are inadequate and there's not a lot of hope for you. So you might as well just figure out a way to be happy, because you're never going to be fulfilled. And even though I had become a Christian and gave my life to Christ, those echo chamber lies were still inside me. They really were. Yeah. Now, you don't know it until you crack it open and take a hard look. And the way mine was cracked open was dying.
That's a pretty good crack right there.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
But what I came in contact with was the embodiment of love. That I recognize that everything God does, a lot of people say, well, here's God's love and here's God's judgment and here's God. No, God is love. And his judgment is an act of his love. His discipline is an act of love. His miraculous work in our life is an act of love. Everything he does is not just because he does the right thing. It's because he's madly in love with you and has cried every cry with you, has shed every tear, has hoped every hope, has dreamed every dream. This is not a thing that lives off in the Netherlands. Yeah. This is a living being, the creator of the universe, who cares about you more than you could even imagine, and made you so that he can have relationship with you. And the perfect relationship is not just a one-way relationship, but is a relationship that's returned. And that's why God says, love me with all your heart and your soul and your mind and your strength, because that's how much he loves you. Mm-hmm. And then he says, love your neighbor as yourself. So if you say, how have this message gotten confused? Because we're not doing it.
Mm.
One, we are distracted enough that we really aren't having as much as a relationship with God as most of us treat him like a microwave in a 7-Eleven.
Mm.
You know, need a prayer, boom, hit 30 seconds and grab out a hot pastry of miracle. And that's not a relationship, that's a transaction. But he's there and saying, you know, even if you press the button, I'm here for you. So that is one of the big obstacles. And then the fact that that relationship is somewhat broken. Take the relationship that we have with our neighbors, and you can you can talk about who's your neighbor. Personally, I believe if we're sharing this earth together, they're my neighbor. And do I love them? Or do I hate them? Do I bring hope and encouragement? Or do I bring dissension and anger? You know, what is the spirit of the living God that I bring to my world every day? And am I ambassador of that? I would have to say, not always. And every time that I am not an ambassador of God's love, I am ambassador of the darkness that wants to create a shield, a curtain between that relationship. Of course, if you have a bad relationship with God and you have a bad relationship with other people, guess what? You probably have a bad relationship with yourself. Because you said, love your neighbor as yourself. And look, if you're like I was, living with the lies that bounce around in your echo chamber, it's hard to look in the mirror and say, I love you. If you struggle in all three of those relationships, that is the brokenness that will perpetuate brokenness.
Yeah.
But if you can break through that, granted, none of us are perfect, but continue to press towards that. Imagine being that model, that mentor for your kids. And by the way, that is the second discipline in my book, is to know your market if it's a market, but to actually know your kids.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Yeah.
Show up. Show up not in the same room, not just physically. Give them the most precious gift you can give them. Mm-hmm. That's true presence. Hear them, know them, because God says, I give good gifts. And why are those gifts good? Because God knows what we need.
Yeah.
The greatest gift we can give our kids is presence. And when we give that to them, we can know them, we can honor them, we can bless them, and we can form the very relationships that God designed us for.
Yeah, that's so good, Bill. I think about it's so many places I can go there.
Well, I bet.
And I think about your story. I think about my story as a marketplace leader and just being challenged by my wife to be the spiritual leader of my home. And where do I start? And I think about many of your disciplines that you shared from what do we really value as a family. What's our vision? I didn't have a vision for where I was taking this family. What was on the horizon? What does this look like? All starting with purpose. Obviously, we all have a purpose, whether we recognize that or not. And just thinking about your disciplines around mission, to accomplish the vision and so forth, and goals and values, all these things come together to raise really a healthy, flourishing family. And I think he's calling us, he gives us this awesome privilege and honor, and it humbles me every time to think about it, that we are to bring them up in the instruction, training and instruction of the Lord, which is Ephesians 6:4, which is our verse here, Victorious Family. Today, folks, I'm talking with a communication and marketing expert, Bill Dolan, sharing around his 7 disciplines. And so, Bill, let's jump. I want to focus on one as we begin to wrap up. And you mentioned it. And I want to focus on the discipline around vision. Because, if we don't know where we're going, it's like taking a trip and I've never identified the destiny, but I just hop in the car, right? I turn it on it's filled up with gas, and I'm just driving. But if I don't have a destiny in mind, how do I ever know I'm heading in the right direction? How do I know when I'm there? And I think sometimes as parents, even as business leaders, et cetera, we turn that car on, it's got a full tank of gas. We're going like crazy, driving mile after mile after mile, never to know our real true destiny. How do we know if we arrive? What is it? What does it look like? What does it look like for generations to come who may inherit that car and take that same road trip? Talk to me about that discipline around vision and why is that so significant to have a vision? And what does that look like? And how can we implement that in our homes and the marketplace?
Well, I like Terrence, I love and appreciate you so much. And the idea of having me on the show, some people might think, oh, he's going to bring on a person who has it all together and has this great, let me tell you, and this is a very important thing. I am broken as a father and as a husband. I've screwed up and I am on the road to becoming a better father and a better husband. And it really did change when I got a vision of what being a good father could be. When I got a vision of what being a good husband could be. Because the models and the mentors I had were pretty bad for the most part. And what I think is really important is not just the principle of vision, but who helps you cast that vision. In the case of being a father, being a husband, I realized that the greatest mentor I have is Christ himself. Of what it means to truly love with all your heart, to truly serve, to truly walk in with a deliberate purpose and a deliberate calling. And part of that also was the vision piece specifically.
Yeah.
Now, there are a couple components that make vision so powerful. Number one is the spiritual component, because it means that if you're really going to walk in divine vision, it means you have to really have a relationship with God. And to say, God, what is your vision? Help me understand your destiny and your purpose for me. And vision is not just that road. That vision is, what does it look like when I get there? What does it look like when it's complete? What does the front of this puzzle box look like when I've put this together? Mm-hmm. And to get that vision and to be able to say, yeah, I want that for my family. I want that for my business. I want that for my life. See it, picture it. And it's not only a profound spiritual exercise, but physiologically, the way God designed us with our brain, it makes perfect sense. Because when you get vision and it's tied to passion and purpose, it goes right through not only the visual cortex, you see it, but also you have a reticular activating system in your brain that's constantly filtering out non-essential material. For example, I think a lot of people know this, but when you got up this morning, you put on a shirt and you could feel your arms going through the shirt. But do you feel the cloth against your skin right now? Not really. It's been determined that that's inconsequential because you have told through your vision of what is important, and your reticular activating system says it's not. When you have vision, you declare not only before God and the world, but to your brain, this is important. This is what I'm looking out for. These are the pieces that I need. And when you get clarity about that, the pieces start to manifest. Kind of like this bad example, but like if you're thinking about buying a new car and you say, I want to get a electric car, I want to get a Subaru or whatever, name whatever car you want. Guess what? When you start making a decision that you want to buy that new car, have you noticed a lot more of those cars appear on the road? They just appear. And then after you buy the car, they're everywhere. Everybody's got your car because you've informed your brain that this is important. And if you're going to be a great father and a great husband, great vision informs you what's important. You look for it. And when you look for it, you can act on it. And if you don't have that vision, all those other things get muddled in with the rest of it. And like me, you will fall and be seduced by the illusion of movement. And I was one of those guys. It doesn't matter if I was directing a project with the president or working with this nonprofit or doing a big piece with a, big band or ministry or whatever like that. As long as I was going, I thought that was the value. And that was the soft vision that was implanted in me by bad mentorship. That has to be replaced by a divine vision that guides you to live according to your purpose, that has missions that are attached that you fulfill. And all those pieces in that puzzle that is the vision that God has called for you start to manifest, because guess what? It's not because magic happens. It's because you see things that you never saw before, which means you can do things you've never done before. And you can be the husband that you feel called to be. And you can be the husband, and the father and the grandfather that you feel called to be, because you've made a deliberate decision to visualize that, to cast that vision, and now to pursue it.
It's powerful, Bill. I was just thinking, many of us, we're on this road, and some of us get distracted, and we get distracted by things of what I call disillusioned glory. It's not the full glory of God, but it's disillusioned glory. It's those things that we consider to make us happy or satisfied or even have a happy family or whatever. And it's the wrong focus, right? But it looks good. It sounds good. It feels good. But in the truth, in the road that we're on, we call it charting your family spiritual journey. At the end of that road is something supernatural. It's a glory of God. And we experience the glory from him and of him and so forth. But it's a victorious glory that's greater than we can ever imagine. It's not disillusioned glory at all. Those distractors of life but the beauty of it all is that we know who the Redeemer is. And so when we get into these difficult situations or get off course, it's not the fact that we're off course. The question is, who do we run back to because of whom we are? And it's a powerful story that we have because we know whom we are. And when we're in those struggles, we can go back to the one who is ultimately sufficient. And that is Christ Jesus, as you mentioned. Bill, as we wrap up, there's so many ways we can go. I want to give you the last couple of minutes. And I want you to just look into the camera as we speak to parents, grandparents, everyone that has authority for children in the home. We also speak in the marketplace leaders who are leading companies, but yet they want their companies to glorify the Father and what they do and how they do it. But in this case, I want you to look into that camera and talk to parents, specifically the dads out there. And I'd like for you to encourage them and how you want to bring in the 7 disciplines or 1 discipline or whatever you want to do. This is your moment to just speak into the parents' life to encourage them to keep going on.
Well, there's one thing that just jumps out at me, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, but I can't overemphasize it. And it really has to do with my kids, because now as they're adults, and I thought I'm doing all the right things, love Jesus, go to church, blah 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 blah, go down the list. We check the boxes. My middle son, who has my name, sat down with me, and one day I just said, "Hey, hon," I call him Han or Willie or the boy with my name. I said, "How'd I do as a father?" And he said, Dad, I know you loved us. I know you loved me. And I know that you worked really, really hard. And we know that you're excellent at what you do. And that makes us really proud of you. But you were never really present for us. I said, what? And he clarified. He said, you did a lot of the right things. And you showed up a lot of the right times. But in terms of when we were together, I knew you were always thinking about the next show, the next project. And we could say things and you had these like trigger responses that gave the illusion of having a dialogue with us. But they weren't, because you didn't really look into our eyes. You didn't really listen for our hearts. You didn't really know what our deepest needs were. It was a functional parenting role that you played. And I appreciate that. But I missed having you there. And needless to say, that broke my heart. And, as I looked down, I go, oh, where was I? Was I on this? Was I what? The second discipline has to do with not knowing your market. And I'm not saying your kids are your market, but we do this exercise called the human address. And it's, what are their wants? What are their interests? What are their needs? What are their objections? What are their fears, their frustrations, their media behaviors, their buying journey? There's things that we do when we're conducting business and we need to know. And I realized I never even came close to doing that with my own kids. I dialed in Parenthood. And if you have dialed in Parenthood, or you know that you can be better, know that it's not too late. It's not too late. And I beg you, quit faking parenthood. Quit faking being a great spouse. You know, we go to church and we kind of get brownie points for looking good and smelling good, as if somehow I'm elevating the brand of Jesus by showing how happy we are and how everything's perfect, which is a bunch of crap. We're people and we make mistakes, but we do have the answer and the blessing in Christ Jesus. And we are a people in process. Celebrate that process. Love with all your heart. And even if you're not a good parent, a good spouse now, you can be, because it's not just the right thing to do. It truly is your destiny, and maybe one of your greatest ministry opportunities you have in your life.
Wow, Bill, we'll end there, because I think that is a point that every parent, as we think about parenthood, can take in and embrace. Well, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Victorious Friday. Today, my guest, Bill Dolan. Bill, you've been a blessing. Thank you so much for not only this time, but your friendship and the way I see you demonstrate that love just ongoingly. I appreciate you, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Terrence. It's a blessing to be here. I hope it was a blessing for those watching.
Believe me, it was. Take care.